You get up one morning, your elders have something. You don't know how they get it, but you want to use it. But if you ask them old people, you get the thing what they went through. Ask them this any day, and them elders sure to say, black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. Make up your mind to work 10 times harder to get something because of your color. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. People rob you, humiliate you, turn around and whip you, and then they free you. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. So when you hear you get a little something, with a more kind friends, look your mark in, because you don't know already. Black man don't get nothing easy. You get up one morning, and oil money running. How it come you don't know. You don't care how the thing go. But if you read about Uriah, you go find out about the pressure. How they get so much whole hell. Get a penny from TLL. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. You got to take up your own cash money, pay people for your own refinery. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. Make up your mind to be a magician, to make money out of scrap iron. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. So when you hear you get a little something, with a dragon and you keep marking, because I don't tell you already, black man don't get nothing easy. You get up one morning, independence happening. You think the thing come easy, you start taking liberty. But if you know about petition, we had to send to England for some woman to tell we in this colony free. Black man have to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. You got to go to conference in London to get independence in your own land. Black man have to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. The blade slave you, and then they whip you, turn wrong and sell you, and then they free you. Black man have to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. So when you hear you get a little something, with a dragon and you keep marking, because you don't know this already, black man don't get freedom easy. So when a black man have something, you got to start thinking, got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. So when you hear you get a little something, with a more kind friends, look your mark in, because you don't know already, black man don't get nothing easy. You get up one morning, and oil money running. How it come you don't know. You don't care how the thing go. But if you read about Uriah, you go find out about the pressure. How they get so much whole hell. Get a penny from TLL. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. You got to take up your own cash money, pay people for your own refinery. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. Make up your mind to be a magician, to make money out of scrap iron. Black man got to keep on jamming, for black man to get a little something. So when you hear you get a little something, with a dragon and you keep marking, because I don't tell you already, black man you get nothing easy. You get up one morning, independence happening. You think the thing come easy, you start taking liberty. But if you know about petition, we had to send to England for some woman to tell we in this colony free. Black man have to keep on jamming. For black man to get a little something. You got to go to conference in London to get independence in your own land. Black man have to keep on jamming. For black man to get a little something. You play slave you, and then they whip you, turn wrong and sell you, and then they free you. Black man have to keep on jamming. For black man to get a little something. So when you're here, you get a little something. With a dragon and you keep marking. Because you don't know this already. Black man don't get freedom easy. So when a black man have something, you got to start thinking. You get it easy. You got to practice economy. From getting licks from the slave master to become the landowner is a terrible journey. Black with plenty brutality. Black man got to keep on jamming. For black man to get a little something. You got to make up your mind that you're able to get a pony and jam with the devil. Black man got to keep on jamming. For black man to get a little something. You got to make up your mind that you're ready to swim on shore and rock your boat steady. Black man got to keep on jamming. For black man to get a little something. So when you're here, you get a little something. With a hawker, you better keep watching. Because I don't tell you already, black man don't get nothing easy. Black man got to keep on jamming.
Black man don't get nothing easy. The Black Stallion, Dr. Leroy Calise. Black man don't get nothing easy. A narrative on the struggle for emancipation, the struggle for independence, using the eyes of the African to tell the story of our struggle against oppression. Nothing comes easy for the oppressed. Nothing comes easy for the oppressed. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. Early start tonight, as we announced last night. We're going to be starting early most nights because most nights we are on the road. Last night I spoke in BV, Better for Wacton. Very very energetic meeting at BV last night. Good evening to all the people from Better for Wacton. And tonight I am at Victoria. Tonight we're at Victoria, WPA APNU meeting at Victoria tonight, the first village. And after our program tonight, I will be heading there. So we're doing double shift. We are determined to keep our program going. I know it's difficult to get used to 6 o'clock start when people have been so accustomed to the 7 o'clock start. But some of you are here and we are keeping the wheels turning. Good evening to all of you who have made your contributions to the WPA Campaign Fund. I urge the rest of you to make your contribution and please share the live. Let everyone know that we're on a little bit early tonight, and this is likely to be the norm until September 1st, which is election day, because we're on the campaign trail on social media, of course, where we are now, and of course on the ground. Several meetings. All parties are keeping public meetings. APNU are holding their meetings across the country. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to the people of Victoria, our first village. Good evening, Victoria. Good evening, East Coast Demerara, West Coast Demerara, Georgetown. Good evening, Demerara. Good evening, Berbice, West Berbice, East Berbice, Quarantine. Good evening, Essequibo. Those of you in the hinterland, a special good evening to you. Region 1, Region 7, Region 8, Region 9, good evening to you. Good evening to you there in Region 10, Kokwani, Everton, Wisma Mackenzie, Linden. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to tonight's edition of Politics 101. It's Emancipation Week. Of course, Friday is going to be the 1st of August, and we will be commemorating 187 years 187 years since emancipation. August morning, come again, and we're going to rock them. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to Victoria. I'll be there later on this evening, at Moravian, the corner of Moravian and the main road. So make your way down there if you are in Victoria, close to Victoria. We have in the meeting there tonight. It's a WPA-PNU meeting. Speakers there tonight, Takumo Gunsi, Dion Abrams, Kadaki Amsterdam, and others. I will be there, and the leader of the APNU and the presidential candidate, Aubrey Norton, will also be making an appearance at the meeting there tonight in Victoria. And I think they will be carrying it live. CAMS TV will be carrying that meeting live. So if you're in Victoria, make your way down there to the corner of Moravian Street and the main road. Good evening to all of you. Emancipation Week. 187 years since our parents made their way through the gates of hell, and we continue to struggle with the scars of bondage. It's not easy to be free and bold, says Martin Carter. It's not easy to be poised and bound, says Martin Carter. It's not easy to be free and bold. And so therefore, we continue to struggle for the promise of emancipation. And those of our sisters and brothers who came after emancipation, the struggle against the legacies of slavery has become partly their struggle too. And so it's an African Guyanese struggle, but it's also a national struggle. The struggle of the oppressed. Good evening to all of you. As I said, we are on tonight, WPA APNU meeting, public meeting in Victoria tonight. We shall be heading there after the program here this evening. That's the reason for the early start. Lots happening as the elections draw near, and things are beginning to fall in place. Last night at BV, we had quite a vibrant meeting, and we understand there have been meetings across the place. Last Friday, I was in I was in Annandale South. That's where my sister Lynette Greenwood comes from, Congo country, Congo Creole. Very, 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 very vibrant meeting there. And I said to the persons who attended the meeting, vote for, not just for yourself, vote for your ancestors, those far, far, far away in our history, but those close. And some of the people of Annandale who are now gone to the great beyond, Congo Creole, them go where one be one. People like Miss Irene Garnett and Miss Faddy and Miss Rue and Miss Morrison, who was the historian, because I think um, Miss Morrison, she was the oldest of the lot, and she had a lot of oral history. We used to go and hear her tell stories because our parents, remember, our parents were enslaved. And so she would hear stories from them about slavery. People like Sissy Bob and Eunice Corey and Rapatap. Rapatap was a Nancy man. Nancy Tory again, bad bro. Lionel. He said, who crap who can jump like a me? Which crap who can jump like a me? Um, they were bad. The Garnett family. And those people there in Annandale, they used to beat their drums with stick, Kanema Congo. Beat their drums with stick. Some other tribes beat the drum with hand. And so I said, I asked the people there in Annandale South, as you go to the polls, remember those people who helped to build, and every village in this country has stalwarts, people who made us who we are and what we are. Last night at BV, Brother Harcourt gave us a history lesson of people who made, remember when we were at school, they had a book called The People Who Came, those who came to our shores from other parts of the world. And of course, they came from a long history. Africans didn't come as slaves. I hear, I happen to turn on the radio sometimes and I hear some of the young people saying this is Emancipation Day when the slaves were free. And I said, ouch, 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 ouch. Those people were freed were not slaves. They were enslaved. We got to get the language right, Our people didn't come as slaves. They were captured and turned into slaves. They were enslaved. They came from a great history, going right back to the Nile Valley, the great kingdoms of Africa. And so when our people came here, they taught the Europeans. They came here, they knew how to plant rice. And I hear they say rice now has an ethnic name. But the people introduced rice to the New World Africans. They took 133 enslaved people from Barbados to what is now the Carolinas, the South and North Carolina, to plant rice when they were diversifying out of cotton. So a lot of the African Americans in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, that area, are descendants of Barbadians. Well, enslaved people who went to Barbados. We can call them Barbadians. And so our people came with skills. Some of them, as you would know from history, were able to overpower the slave catchers and took over some of the ships, and they were able to guide them, because these are people, the River Nile and all the great rivers of Africa. They knew about shipping. They knew how to navigate ships. So our people came with skills. But most important, they came with their dignity. And after 400 years, long years of enslavement, they came out with their dignity. And I keep using that word dignity deliberately, because your dignity is your character, is your soul, is your spirit, everything wrapped up there. That's your dignity. They can take everything away from you. but they're not able to take away your dignity. Because your dignity goes deep inside your soul, deep inside your spirit, deep inside your belly. And so we walk through those gates with our dignity. We came with our dignity. We came with our dignity. And we walked out of that plantation with our dignity. And since we've walked out of the plantation with our dignity, 187 years have passed, and in those 187 years, our dignity has been tested. Our collective dignity has been tested. As it is today, this election is about the test of the African dignity. There are some people who are saying that David Hines is embarrassed. African people embarrass David Hines because he's been telling them to stick together. And look, they've gone to PPP and some gone to Mohammed. David Hines is embarrassed because he has been telling people to stick together. This is what people like Freddie Soon and others are saying. They're laughing, Black people. Laughing us. Because a few of our people, have gone to other parties. They're saying the right to association is a sacred right, and everyone should have the right to belong to any party. Yet, they are laughing when African people go to other parties. And they're celebrating the fact that Indian people are remaining with their Indian party. And they're saying it's an embarrassment to me because I've been calling on people to stick together. I've been calling on Black people to stick together. Whether they feel so or not, I'm glad they know that it's a good thing to stick together. So they are saying Indian people are sticking together with the PPP and they're going nowhere, but Black people are not sticking together. And they're embarrassing David Hines. But I have nothing to be embarrassed about. I will continue to say to African people that their destiny is not just individually. Our destiny is collective. We were not enslaved as individuals. We were enslaved as a people. We did not free ourselves from enslavement as individuals. We freed ourselves collectively. And when we left the plantation, we did not lay the groundwork for a modern Guyana individually. We did it collectively, by collectively pooling our money and buying lands and turning those lands into habitats, into villages, creating the village economy. We created our churches, our schools. We did them collectively. And there is no shame in calling on African people to act collectively. The notion of the cooperative republic. The cooperative is the collective action. People cooperating, pooling their monies together. There's no shame in asking African people to stick together. As there is no shame in Indian leaders asking Indian people to stick together. Self-love. Love yourself. There's no shame in loving yourself. The Bible says, love your neighbors, you love yourself. You can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. There's no shame. I don't feel any shame in asking Black people to love yourself. As I said, it's in the Bible. It means that the prophets were talking about that long before me. Long before me. Garvey calling us to love ourselves. Self-reliance. Rely on yourself first. You can't talk about self-reliance for the country and tell me I cannot talk about self-reliance for parts of the country. There's a report that says that Guyana is the country that comes closest to providing all the food it needs. And that's self-reliance, and that should be celebrated. If we are able to get the policies to produce the foods that we need, and everybody's celebrating that. So if you're celebrating self-reliance for Guyana, why can't I talk about self-reliance for Africans? Or Amerindians talk about self-reliance for themselves? Or Indian Guyanese talk about self-reliance? So there is no shame in me asking African people to take advantage of our collective strength. The vote is an individual construct. Each person has a vote. One person, one vote. In the old days, it was one man, one vote. When men could vote and women couldn't vote. One person, one vote. So the vote is individual. But that individual vote could have collective consequence. If one party wins by 50 votes, 100 votes, that party gets to govern the entire country in a winner-take-all system. And those 100 votes or 50 votes or 200 votes, they're from 200 individuals. But those 200 individuals make the difference between a party winning or losing. So the vote is individual, but it's an individual construct that has collective consequences. And so if I ask African Guyanese in an environment where each ethnic group is voting for its own party, and I ask African Guyanese in a winner-take-all system to say, look, if everybody is voting for the party that best represents their ethnic group, then if you do so, you're not breaking any rule. You're not breaking any law. I am for national unity and national government. I'm on record. I wrote an entire book on that. A national government that includes all the political parties representing all the ethnic groups. It's a winner-take-all system. If it were not a winner-take-all system, each party would be part of government based on its percentage of the vote. But that is not the system we have. We have a winner-take-all system in which people vote largely by their group. All of the pundits, or most of the pundits, are saying that East Indians are likely to vote in large numbers, 90% and more, for the PPP. I happen to think so too. I happen to think so too. And there's no crime if East Indians vote for the PPP. There's no crime. East Indians, in voting for the PPP, they're not being irrational. They're not being irrational. They're saying our interests, our ethnic interests, are best served by the PPP. There is no crime in that. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think most East Indians will vote for the PPP. I would stick my neck out and say 90% of East Indians would vote for PPP. If that doesn't happen, it will be a great shock. Amerindians tend to split their votes between the PPP and the PNC/APNU/coalition. The last couple of elections, it came down to about 60% for the PPP, 40% for the PNC/APNU coalition. African Guyanese have historically voted for the PNC. I have been a victim of it. We in the WPA have run as the WPA, we've run as coalition, and we've run against the PNC. And although we have good standing, we have had good standing in the African community, good standing in the Indian community, neither of the two ethnic groups voted for us in any significant numbers. We had this situation in a village. I think we had about 8 candidates in a village on the quarantine, and we got 1 vote, which means even our own candidates vote for the PPP. You know, the man said, tell Dr. Ryan, doctor, maybe want to vote for you, but when we go in a place, like a cup get a magnet, you draw me on. There's no crime in East Indians voted for the PPP. And there should be no crime if African people vote for the PNC/coalition/APNU. And there is no crime in me or anybody asking them to do that. Because the political system, the electoral system, says that we have to do that. If we had a different system, a power sharing system, where you vote for the party of your choice, and you know that at the end of the election, whether the party of your choice gets 1 seat or 2 seats, it will be in government. Then there will be no need for us to say to our people, vote for the party that best represents all of your interests. But here are people, East Indian brothers, who are celebrating the fact that East Indians seem set to vote for the party that best represents their ethnic interests. But they're almost willing Black people, African people, to do the opposite. And they seem to think that enough Black people will do the opposite to embarrass me. So if Black people go vote for the PPP or they go vote for Win, they're embarrassing David Hinds. Why? Because David Hinds tell them to stick together and they disobey him. And they go on and vote for other people. Kya, they're laughing at us. Chabdas as a calypso, them people laughing at me. Them people laughing at me. That's what they're doing. But they are going to be surprised. You know, people say, who laugh last, laugh the best. You know, rice a shelf and rice a pot are 2 different kind of rice. I am convinced that the overwhelming majority of Africans will vote for the APNU. I'm convinced about that. I don't have to tell them to do that. They understand the political system and the political process. My telling Black people to stay together is more cultural than political. And there's a relationship between the cultural and the political, because if people have cultural strength and cultural nourishment, they will make the requisite political decisions. I think that the vast majority, overwhelming majority of Africans will vote for the coalition. If that doesn't happen, it would be surprising. The overwhelming majority of East Indians will vote for the PPP. If that doesn't happen, it will be surprising. And there are surprises because we are human beings. And human beings are not predictable. Always. They're not always predictable. In some instances, they are predictable. There's nothing in our history, our political history, because that's all we have to go with. In 2006, about 25,000, mostly Africans, left the PNC and they voted for AFC. AFC had an African presidential candidate, Raphael Trotman. He had left the PNC and gone over. And the PNC was reduced to 34%, when it would usually, in the election before that, would get about 44%. And the AFC got that. The AFC got about 10% of the vote, mostly Africans. That was 2006. They didn't go from PNC to PPP. They went to the AFC under an African Guyanese candidate. In 2011, the PNC, which now merged with the WP and others to become APNU, in 2011, their votes went back to 44, 45%, from 34 to 45. This time around, the Africans who had followed Raphael went back to PNC because in 2011, the presidential candidate was Ramjatan. And then Nagamutu left the PPP and came over to the AFC. And the AFC was able to get again about 8 to 10% of the votes, this time mostly East Indians, because they had an Indian presidential candidate. 2011. So our history has shown that when people, some section of the base leaves, they don't go from one of the ethnic representative to the other ethnic representative. They go somewhere in the middle. Some people are suggesting that the African young people, some of whom seem to be gravitating towards Mohammed, they're not going to the PPP, they're going to them. And they're saying that some of them may go to win. We don't know. But I think the vast majority of Africans will vote APNU eventually. As I said, this election has a new dimension, and that new dimension is that vote buying and vote selling seems to have become a norm. And in an environment of poverty, it seems as though some parties think it's a good strategy to take advantage of people's poverty and to get their vote. When they were asking people on a program why Indian Guyanese are not moving to other parties and African Guyanese are moving, and you know, one chap says, well, Indian Guyanese are satisfied with the PPP. So that's one reason they're not going. Second, that they're not going to go to Mohammed because Mohammed is endangering the country and Indian Guyanese don't want the country to be endangered. And then Freddie Kissoon said, David Hines, Takumo Ogunse, Rickford Burke, and Mark Benchop frightens Indians. So Indians are going to stay put for those three reasons. But Africans will move. No. Black people frighten Jack Dio. They frighten Jack Dio more than Indian people frighten me. I never presided over the licking down of black people's homes. I never preside over the killing of their sons, Indian people's sons. I never preside over licking down Indian people's homes. I never preside over covering up an Indian Adriana Young. So if Indian people would frighten me, who ain't do them nothing, what should black people do with the PPP leaders who preside over government that kill their people, kill their children? They have every reason to frighten Jack Dio and Ali and the Win leader, because all them were birds of a feather flock together. African people have every reason to frighten them. The problem is that people are using money to entice people. I wonder if the APNU had plenty money, and if the APNU was disposed to buying votes, going into the Indian community and buy votes, what would have happened? Then the APNU is not disposed to doing that. They don't have the resources to do it. So the buying is a one-way buying. But I'm saying the vast majority of Africans will resist that vote buying scheme. And to those who have decided, look, it's worth the risk, we will have to live with that, and they will have to live with the consequences. So don't give people the impression that you see a couple of Africans at PPP meetings is because they love PPP. They don't, and the PPP knows that. And don't talk to me about the leaders at the top. Leaders at the top cross and go over to party that were cussed down from the time Noah was a scout. It probably is more pronounced this election. But often those leaders don't carry no votes with them. They don't. They're seen by the party and the base that they live in as sellouts. So they normally don't carry. I know of no PNC leader who ever left the PNC and go to the PPP and carry any critical mass of people with them. I know of no PPP leader who will leave PPP and go to PNC and carry any critical mass with them. They don't. They don't. And people say it's their right to join whichever party they are. It's their right. But it shows a kind of individualism versus the collective. Because a lot of them were quote unquote elected collectively by the APNU PNC base. And so when they leave and they don't take the base, they're leaving against the wishes of the base. They didn't go to the base and say, look, I don't like the PNC no more, and I'm going to the PPP. What do you think? Did any of them go to Linden and hold a public meeting and say, I call this meeting to ask your opinion? Since you elected me, you invested in me. Did they call a meeting in Georgetown or wherever they live? Or whoever think? No. Amanza is the only one, and Simona, they didn't ever go to the PPP. They formed their own party, and in a sense, they're part of the opposition. But the others who have gone over, did they consult their constituency? You see, you can say it's your right to join. If it's your right and you're acting based on your right, you have to consider that you were not elected by yourself. The people elect you. In fact, we don't have a constituency system. So each of those MPs really is they're representing 220,000 people. Did they ask those 220,000 people what do they think? No. But so people crossing from one party to the other party is not the big issue, because they don't change the electoral equation. They don't. History has shown that. Whenever people have left, they've gone halfway, meaning they don't go from one ethnic party to the other ethnic party. They go halfway. So, sisters and brothers, this obscene spectacle of these Indian comrades laughing because some Africans are showing a propensity to vote for Mohammed. They're laughing. Kya, 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 kya. Indian people not going, but black people going. And we have some well-meaning people who look at the WIN platform and say, what a multiracial platform. What a multiracial crowd. 95% African and 5% other ethnic, they're calling it multiracial. Sometimes you wonder about this. And those people mean well. They mean well. They're not nasty people. But what they don't understand is if Africans or a critical mass of Africans is deciding they're going to go for other parties and zero Indians, that's not an advance on multiracialism. It's not an advance on multiracialism. Because I can tell you, the Mohammed phenomenon of Africans giving Mohammed a look, especially African youth, or some Africans finding themselves with red jerseys, it's not sustainable. People got dignity, and you can assault their dignity because they may not be able to resist it. At some point, they are going to resist it. There are some of the African youth, I understand, believe that Mohammed could win the election. They feel that Indian youth is going to join them with Mohammed and they're going to win the election. After September 1st, when they find out that that's far from reality, they're going to turn on Mohammed. It is not sustainable. When you hoodwink people or you take advantage of people's vulnerability, it is not sustainable. How long the PPP is going to be able to buy votes? When those African people, if they do, and I don't think many of them will do, but let's say those who decide, look, I'm going to hold my nose and I'm going to give them the vote. When they wake up after September 1st, God forbid, and find out that they still got to cry for the son getting shot by the rogue police. They still can't get enough money to invest in a real business. That the economic condition, and they're going to turn on PPP. Just the other day, look at what the PPP did to African youth. The same African youth they say they want. Look at what they did. Tie them up. 200-300 of them because they like to tie up on the road. tie them up and charge them with terrorism. I never tie up an Indian and charge them with terrorism. Yet they claiming Indian people frighten me. Well, what black people should do to the PPP? I fought on the side of Indians, actually. I fought on the side of Indians. To the contrary. It's there. I have the scars to show for it. I don't want thanks for it, but it has to be put in the record. But I never do nothing to Indians, and they claim Indians frighten me. All the things that the PPP do to Africans, Africans should more than frighten the PPP. And I'm saying it is for that reason that I think that the vast majority of our people will eventually put their votes for the APNU. And it's not necessarily a racial vote. It's a common sense vote. Other groups are not sharing out their votes. And you go sharing your votes, weakening your chances of your group getting into government. By sharing your vote, you are facilitating the ethnic group that been killing you by children, that been shooting you down on the road, bulldozing your house, covering up the murder of your children. You're facilitating them going back to office. That's not rational. That's not rational. And because it's not rational, the vast majority of Africans wouldn't do it. And those who are doing it are taking a chance. So, sisters and brothers, this propaganda that is going on, we have to push back against it. Yes, from the way things look with the naked eye, it seems as though more Africans will vote outside of the traditional base than Indians would vote outside of the tradition. With the naked eye. But the naked eye could fool you with politics. But even if that were so, even if a small percentage of Africans were to vote outside of the traditional support base, it's not a reason to panic. We have some work in trying to talk to those young people and let them understand that while they may be driven by certain sentiments, that the consequence could be dangerous for them in the short and medium term, and perhaps even the long term. We were not enslaved as individuals. We did not spread our votes to parties to get out of slavery. We came together as an oppressed people, as a people who've been shackled. We came together and freed ourselves. Sticking together is not a bad thing. Everybody would like the CARICOM countries to stick together. That's why we have CARICOM. We had the federation in 1958 to 1962. 10 Caribbean countries came together. The PPP kept Guyana out. It's the PPP who's anti-sticking together. Sticking together is a good thing. If we stuck together more as CARICOM, we will bring more benefits to our region. If we stick together as Guyana, we will push back more against Venezuela. So sticking together is not a bad thing, comrades. It's not a bad thing, sisters and brothers. Our people stuck together and bought land and created villages, created civilization in Guyana. Nothing is wrong with sticking together. Yes, in certain endeavor, you would like 99% of us to stick together. It's not possible to get 100% because, human beings are human beings. So there's no embarrassing of David Hinds. If only 90% of Africans stick together at this election, that's an embarrassment to me. Ultimately, to win the election, we have to have the vote of the base. It's one vote you have, It would be nice if you could split your vote 3-way. Then who like one party could give them 1/3, the next one they give another third, the next one. It would be nice. But you get one vote, and you can only give it to one party. And so we have to reason with our people. Reason with them so that they understand. So many Africans stop me on the road and tell me, Dr. Hinds, if the PPP win this upcoming election, Black people dead. That's as stark as they're putting it. So those who will laugh, let them laugh. They will know where barley will grow. An election is just a moment in time. If after the election people realize that the misery in their lives continue, that 48% poverty, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow night, that 48% is a telling statement. And among Amerindians and Africans, I'm telling you, it's higher than 48%. And when the elections are over and poverty is not dealt with, the PPP jumping around the place and saying, oh, poverty is low. Well, if poverty is low, where are your studies? Where are the numbers? You can say that the World Bank numbers are dated, but where are your up-to-date numbers? If you had them, if poverty was below 48% and you had them, you would have been showing us that. I think it's more than 48%. And certainly among Amerindians and Africans, it's far more than 48%. And a party that impoverishes its citizens, a government that impoverishes its citizens and then claim that the people love them, they are crazy. They are crazy. The only party that has made an unbridled commitment, the only parties are the APNU parties, an unbridled commitment to ending poverty. The WPA, as you know, is in the forefront of that. We don't want to play games with people. I rather an African person tell me that I am no longer poor, but I go in and vote for the PPP, or an Indian say, I'm no longer poor, but I go in and vote for the APNU. I will be satisfied because I want poverty to end. Too much misery in poverty. And when the PPP come and gives you, every 5 years, gives you a contract for 1, 2, 3, 4 million, that is not going to end poverty. First of all, they give 20 or 30 you all the contract. And 30 by 2 million, that's 60 million. In a village of 7,000, 6,000 people, tell me how that will trickle down and end poverty in that village. It can't. When they're going to give you $100,000 here and there, tell me how that is going to end poverty. It can't. You're in debt. Each poor person is in debt. If you don't owe the shopkeeper, you owe yourself because you're not able to buy the food to nourish yourself. So you're sick. your children sick because of poverty. So when we say cash transfers, so that you can get some money to spend it how you see it. Increase wages, where we are ensuring that each person has a basic income, each Guyanese, each adult, each working person has a basic income. Regardless of what happened, you're guaranteed a basic income. They call it universal basic income. A basic income to take care of your basic needs. What you earn after that is extra money that you can then invest in something. That is why we are saying a basic income. A cash transfer by law. And if you're a public servant, who we owe public servants so much money in the wages of the PPP have denied them since 1999. Before, but since 1999. And WPA is saying, give them a piece of land in lieu of those wages that are owed. Some may take it in a house lot. Some may take it in a piece of land to go and farm. Some may say, I don't need the land, but giving it to my children. That's how you deal with poverty. And you're not giving people free money. It's their money you're transferring to them. And you can do what we call conditional cash transfers. We give you the cash transfer, but you no longer need to have your child out of school selling plantain chip on the road. We're going to check to make sure that your children go to school. You no longer have an excuse not to send your children to clinic or carry them to clinic. So we're going to say, in exchange, that's one way of doing it. It's called conditional cash transfer. In exchange, look, we are asking you to send your children. And we will measure the end of the year. And all the studies where cash transfers have been used and are being used show that school attendance went up astronomically. Attendance at clinic and health centers went up. So we are not giving money to feel nice. The money that you're getting with the cash transfers, the increased wages, it has an objective. And the objective is to take you out of poverty. And you will have to make a choice whether the PPP, $100,000, $20,000, $30,000, if it could have taken you all out of poverty, it would have done so a long time. They've been doing it for 5 years. How long? So we are urging, especially our young people, think wisely about that one vote you have. Don't wait until the morning after and then say you're sorry. It'll be too late. I gotta go. We are at Victoria tonight. I think that meeting has started already. Should have started at 6:30. So I'm rushing down there to speak now. But at least we got in 1 hour of our program. Please contribute to the WPA campaign fund, however small, however big. We welcome, because we are on the road. We are on the road. I'm gone. I'll see you all tomorrow night. Tomorrow, the public meeting is moving to Hinds'Grove Market Square. Hinds'Grove Market Square tomorrow night. Tonight is Victoria. Tomorrow night is Hinds'Grove Horse Course on Emancipation Eve, where the Buxton Line Top Yoruba singers and the main speaker will be Aubrey Norton. So I'm gonna see you all tomorrow night.